Hello, 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 and you are welcome to my episode 4. Yes, I think it's episode 4 of Power and Purpose. It's been a long while I came online, but today is gonna be interesting. I'm trying to keep up with me coming on live and sharing my content with you all. My name is Chrissy Hayford. I'm a gamer by default and I'm an esports advocate. That means that I love to talk about esports and I love to talk about video games and I love to talk about gadgets and other stuff. But today we're going to talk about Africa esports at the internationals, the pivots and the pillars. What is it that really catalyze or what makes it important for any African to be at the international level of esports? There are so many esports events in the world, and the Africa representation is most of the time very little. But over the past 5 years, we've seen many countries, many Africans rising up to the occasion to show forth, to show their strength, to show their skills. What are the things that really characterize or makes it important for us when an African is at the level of the international level or at the global stage? So I've been thinking about it for a long time, and through my own experiences with the players that I've traveled with to different countries, I find it so much important for us to be able to storytell and bring our trajectory or our stories that is very impactful to ourselves. So I put down a bit of context to this narrative that I want to share. And let me just open up my notepad and share with you. So, without much ado, welcome once again to my live stream. And if you are watching, like and subscribe to the channel. And let's go. So, the topic is Africa. Um, Africa esports are the internationals, the pivots, and the pillars. So here are my takes. All right. So number one, I think the first is validation. Anytime an African or Africa country is invited to play or to participate in an international esports event, it validates us. It gives validation to the fact that people play games on this side of the continent and they can also perform at the international level. So validation comes in to really help our scene, our community. It validates the community in Africa that they are not wasting their time, but they can also rise up because, you know, Ghana gets to play in the World Cup. It validates the country that there's a football growing community. It's the same thing happens in esports as well. When we get to participate in the international level, it validates our trajectory. It validates our community as well. Now, the second thing, number two, is acceptance. When validation is done, the next level is acceptance. People get to accept that this thing called esports is viable. This thing called esports has potential to turn people from being casual gamers to becoming professional gamers. So acceptance comes not only for the players themselves that they've been playing this for a long time, now they get to be accepted. Having to play in an international space gets them to be accepted. Not only the player, but their parents, by the government, by their friends, by their co-equals, and that they are not seen as just passing time playing the game, but they can move from casual to professional, and it becomes a career to them. So acceptance is one. Number two is recognition. Number three, yes, we are number three. Number three is recognition. Recognition in the sense that when you play video games, you basically don't get accepted, but recognition in the sense that you get rewarded, right? And once you play, you earn money, you get up high there, you get recognition for whatever skill level that you have, whatever strength that you have. And as I said earlier, validation, acceptance, then recognition. The third one is recognition. And recognition, whenever somebody is recognized, he's recognized for who he is. He's recognized for what he is. And that's why we have the Oscars in the movies, because recognitions empowers. Recognitions and validate and also accept and also show forth the kind of talent people have. And when people, when Africa gets to be in the international esports event, when we are called to be in the esports event, when we are accepted into the esports event, it gives recognition to our space. It gives recognition to our talent that they can also play and be there. So that was number 3. Number 4 is policy. You know, after all these 3 levels comes policy. And I have a presentation that talks about passion to policy and aligning policy with passion. Esports basically passion oriented. It comes from a passion part of us, and the way to be able to build policy around it is to push a lot more of esports events into the international space. Once we get accepted within the international space, once we get to participate in international esports events, like the global esports event, like the esports nations cup, like the esports world cup, like the world esports championship, like the global esports games, every international esports event that we get to showcase Africa in gradually helps to build policy back home, gradually helps to build a policy framework. Government gets to recognize that esports is a viable development pathways for the youth in the country, and therefore help us to build policies. That's one of the key pillars. That's one of the key pivots in building policies, because at this very moment, locally or indigenously, our government don't get to see what is happening on the ground at the grassroots. So one of the ways to be able to help policy guideline, or help our parliamentarians, our government, our government institutions to get to recognize esports as a pillar for developing youth, is to be able to enter into international esports events. And every international esports event gives us the key to unlock policy-driven initiatives. So that was number 4. Number 5 is parents' dream. Every parent in Africa wish that their ward or their children will play in global spaces, will play in the international space. Just like football, every parent in Africa wish their son or daughter will play in the international football games, play in the World Cups, play in the top teams. It's the same in Africa. Every parent wish that their child who loves to play that game, who is very good at that game, can be able to play in the international space. So when Africa gets to be in the international esports space or participate in global esports events, it is a motivation. It is an eye-opener for parents. It is a dream for the parents. And that eventually creates room for esports acceptance in our communities and in our part of the region. All right. So the next thing is, that is number 5. Number 5 is parents' dream. Number 6 is knowledge exchange. Whenever I've traveled wide with participants, I've traveled wide with Africa players, I've traveled wide with Africa talent, and anytime we travel, there's that knowledge exchange that they get that they wouldn't have gotten if they are still based here in Ghana or in any Africa countries. When these talents travel to participate in international, they get a certain knowledge that change their worldview. And that worldview is not it's practical. It's very, very intuitive. It's very, very I don't know how to say it, but that knowledge when they come back, it changes their perspective. Number 7 is cultural exchange. You know, international esports events is hosted in different esports countries. The last time we were in Romania, we've been to Saudi Arabia, we've been to Indonesia, we've been to Morocco, we've been to Nigeria, we've been to different places, and I have traveled different wide. And the culture exchange is very critical for any human capital development. You get to accept people for who they are. You get to accept people for what they are. And that's very key for us, as every international esports event helps us to have cultural exchange. You know, I learned so much whilst I was in Indonesia, and I believe my talent or my players that I travel with also learn a lot, and they get to assimilate the culture of different people, and we also get to impart our culture, that in Ghana we do it this way, this way, this way, by Indonesia we do it this way, this way, this way. Their music, food, everything around it impact us so much, you know. And that cultural exchange is knowledge that comes to impact our community as well. Okay, number 8 is connections and relationships. Every esports event, international esports event, when an African gets to be part of, when an African player gets to be part of, when an African team gets to be part of, they build connections, they build relationship with the other team, with other players. They build bonding with other players across the world. And that is one way of building peace and network. Global esports event solidify peace and coexistence in this part of our world. And it is so powerful a tool to drive. It is so powerful a tool to drive. So whenever an African gets to participate in global esports event, know that it is not only for us, it is also for building global peace. It is also building relationship and bonds that keeps us on top of mind awareness. And I love it so much when I see my players, my teams fraternizing and building relationship, building connections with other countries, right? And it is a powerful tool to drive peaceful coexistence in the world. The next thing is exposure. And this is, I see this a lot, especially at the airport when we are traveling into any international esports event. It's a very powerful thing that we often don't talk about. You know, when talents live in their locality in Africa, they don't get to see a lot. Their worldview is only limited to their surroundings and what they know in Ghana or what they know in Africa. But when they travel, even the process of getting their passport, the process of getting their visas, the process of being at the airport and going through one step and boarding the airplane, the announcement in the airplane is an exposure that gives them something. It changes them. It makes them a better person. It makes them a world person. So when we as Africa gets to be in the international space and you offer us that offer to be in the international space, remember, it is not just participating in the tournament. You've given us a narrative. You've given us a positive influence. You've given us a positive exposure to a different world. I remember traveling with one of our player called Medicine, and we have to make a transit at Doha Airport, and unfortunately we missed our flight. But it seems it was even a good one for us because we get to experience Doha Airport in totality, we're able to experience all the things at the airport, and that experience kept me gives us an exposure that I will never forget. And I believe it's also the same for my player, Medicine, who traveled along with me. And the learnings and the experiences that we got gave us so much exposure. Now I believe he can travel alone and without any guidance because he has had that exposure or world exposure. All right, so that was number 9 for exposure. Now number 10. Number 10 is really dear to my heart. And if you have joined in this, I'm talking about Africa Esports at the international, the pivots and the pillars. What really, really, the narrative that it gives us, the catalyst that it gives us, the foundation that it gives us, and what really empowers us. And whenever we get to see an African at the international esports space, no matter the kind of international or global esports event it is, every time an African is seen at that level, every time an African gets to be in the international front to participate in any global esports event, it is lifting up. It is recognition. It is validation. It is recognition. It is acceptance. It is empowering for our local community. And number 10 is next generation. Next generation in the sense that whenever an African travels to play in an international esports, the younger generation after can pivot, can use him as a pedestal, can use him as reference that, hey, look at this player. He was from Ghana, he was from Nigeria, he was Somalia, he was from Kenya, he was from Morocco, he was from Libya, any Africa country, that he was able to make it to the international space. And I will also make it. To the younger generations coming up, whenever they can have a reference point to say that this person was able to make it to the international space, I will be able to make it. And that is very critical for us to be always strive, even when there is no community for a game, strive to create that first step, strive to create that use esports to unlock that international bridge so that other people or other community, other younger generations coming after us can pivot and move through that same angle. And I say this before because this becomes a foundation and a springboard for the next generation to pivot. The last and not the least is the promise of hope. The promise of hope. That's my number 11 point. The promise of hope of esports in Africa is that we all believe that our young people, as talented as they are, they will stay at home but be able to play in the international level. And when they play in the international space, they get recognition and they can empower the next set of generation of people. So the promise of hope I describe it like, there are so many people playing video games in Ghana, whether be it on console, be it on PC, be it on mobile. It is a promise for us to be in the international space so that we can validate that promise. And every time, for me, it is a promise for us as leaders in the esports space in Ghana or in Africa to keep showing forth, to keep being available, to keep pushing, to keep creating enabling the environment for our talent to be at the international space. That's why whenever there is an event, FIFA Global Esports, International Esports Federation Games, Esports Nations Cup, Esports World Cup, every esports event, we thrive and try to push. It is a promise for us. It is a promise for me to make sure that an African is in there. And if we can get to be there, Yes, we'll do all our effort, we'll build all effort, build, create all the necessary pathways, chase sponsors, chase authorities, and make sure that an African is there. So if you've been listening, this has been my presentation on why I think and I believe that international esports events should curate Africa, should have an African in there, because it is more than just competing. It is more than just participating. There's so much that keeps us. So I'll just go over again, and to for those that joined us now. I believe there are people watching or even commenting. And if you are, just leave a comment and also leave what you think Africa being at the internationals, what the narratives that it gives, the the pivot that is given. It is a springboard. It is a foundation. It, and when I think about a pillar, um, a pillar is something that holds the foundations of a building. It holds the structures of a building. And anytime an African team or a country gets to participate in a global or international esports event, there is more. And these are the things that I think will cement or gives validators. I think in this presentation, I made a case for validation. It brings validation, it brings acceptance, it brings recognition, it brings policy, it enables our government to see that the viability of this esports thing that we are championing and trying to grow at the grassroots. It brings policy framework to it. It also establishes parents' dreams. Parents dream that their wards and children will be in the international, play professionally. And so whenever we travel outside our domain, out of our country to participate in an esports event in international, parents also anytime we travel, I remember traveling with a team to Saudi Arabia, and when we came back, parents were at the airport to receive us. The joy in the parents' eye to see their children traveling out of their country. It's for many of them, it was their first time traveling out of the country, and it was a joyous moment for the parent. So it's every parent's dream to see their children travel, and even more, traveling on the ticket of esports, traveling on the ticket of something they didn't go to school to learn, not their professional studies, but their passion, something that they build around their passion. So that is very key. Number 6 is knowledge exchange. Anytime we travel, there's a knowledge exchange. It's something that we learn. For me in particular, whenever I travel to an international esports event, I learned a lot. How the event is put together, the protocols, the pickup from the airport, the organization, the how things are done basically out there. We also get to learn so that when we come back, we can do the same thing. And if we are hosting an international event, we can also follow the same format. And then there is a cultural exchange. Their food, their music, their religion, everything that is there, we get to also learn. And then there's connections and relationship, there's bonding, there's that field that we also build together. Then there's exposure for the players, exposure for the delegate that travels with them as well. And then there's the next generation of young people looking up to these international players, or looking up to these pro players, looking up to these young players traveling outside to play, and they can also use them as reference point to build their own esports trajectory. And then the last and not the least, the promise of hope. Whenever Africa participates any event, any international esports event, is a promise of hope. It's a promise to believe that esports, yes, can be a viable source of income for better livelihood, for talent development, and therefore definitely is also a pivot for education. So I've come your way this morning with episode 4 of Power and Purpose, and I believe I'll come your way again another time. If you have a question, you can leave it in the comment section. I will definitely answer in the comment section again and again. This has been me. My name is Chrissy Hayford. I love to play games and I love esports. I love to talk about esports for development. I love to activate esports at the grassroots to change the narratives, to empower people to see esports just beyond just playing the game, but also cultivating it for better livelihood. Basically, that is all that I'm about. And this has been me sharing my heart and pouring my heart about why Africa must be in the international sports and what it does for us. All right, so I'll see you on the next one, and I'll try to come live more to this. I love doing this, but sometimes I don't get the time. I work. I have a 9 to 5 work, so I get to do this when I have the free time and the free will to do it. So I'll see you on the next one, and don't go out there, do what you love to do, especially in esports. And you know what? One thing about esports is that we all love to do stuff. If you are very creative, the only limit to your esports creativity is your imagination. And I keep saying, imagine it, you can do it. You build it, look for people that can help you do it, and partner with them to do it. You can't do it alone, you have to do it with somebody and have good people to do it. But today we are talking about international esports. So I'll see you on the flip side. Enjoy your day. Bye bye.